The Confessions of Saint Augustine, Book 3, Chapter 7. For other than this, that which really is, I knew not, and was, as it were, through sharpness of wit, persuaded to assent to foolish deceivers, when they asked me, Whence is evil? Is God bounded by a bodily shape, and has hairs and nails? Are they to be esteemed righteous who had many wives at once, and did kill men, and sacrifice living creatures? At which I, in my ignorance, was much troubled, and departing from the truth, seemed to myself to be making towards it, because as yet I knew not that evil was nothing but a privation of good, until at last a thing ceases altogether to be, which now should I see, the sight of whose eyes reached only to bodies, and of my mind to a phantasm. And I knew not God to be a spirit, not one who has parts extended in length and breadth, or whose being was bulk, for every bulk is less in a part than in the whole, and if it be infinite, it must be less in such part as is defined by a certain space than in its infinitude, and so is not wholly everywhere as spirit as God. And what that should be in us by which we were like to God, and might be rightly said to be after the image of God, I was altogether ignorant. Nor knew I that true inward righteousness, which judges not according to custom, but out of the most rightful law of God Almighty, whereby the ways of places and times were disposed according to those times and places, itself meantime being the same always and everywhere, not one thing in one place and another in another, according to which Abraham and Isaac and Jacob and Moses and David were righteous, and all those commanded by the mouth of God, but were judged unrighteous by silly men, judging out of man's judgment, and measuring by their own petty habits the moral habits of the whole human race. As if in an armory, one ignorant of what were adapted to each part should cover his head with greaves, or seek to be shod with a helmet, and complain that they fitted not, or as if on a day when business is publicly stopped in the afternoon, one were angered at not being allowed to keep open shop because he had been in the forenoon, or when in one house he observes some servant take a thing in his hand which the butler is not suffered to meddle with, or something permitted out of doors which is forbidden in the dining room, and should be angry that in one house and one family the same thing is not allotted everywhere and to all. Even such are they who are fretted to hear something to have been lawful for righteous men formerly, which now is not, or that God for certain temporal respects commanded them one thing, and these another, obeying both the same righteousness, whereas they see in one man and one day and one house different things to be fit for different members, and a thing formerly lawful, after a certain time not so, in one corner permitted or commanded, but in another rightly forbidden and punished. Is justice therefore various or mutable? No, but the times over which it presides flow not evenly, because they are times. But men whose days are few upon the earth, for that by their senses they can't harmonize the causes of things in former ages and other nations, which they had not experience of, with these which they have experience of, whereas in one and the same body, day, or family, they easily see what is fitting for each member and season, part, and person. For the one, they take exceptions, to the other, they submit. These things I then knew not, nor observed. They struck my sight on all sides, and I saw them not. I indited verses in which I might not place every foot everywhere, but differently in different meters, not even in any one meter the self same foot in all places. Yet the art itself by which I indited had not different principles for these different cases, but comprised all in one. Still I saw not how that righteousness which good and holy men obeyed did far more excellently and sublimely contain in one all those things which God commanded, and in no part varied, although in varying times it prescribed not everything at once, but apportioned and enjoined what was fit for each. And I, in my blindness, censured the Holy Fathers, not only wherein they made use of things present as God commanded and inspired them, but also wherein they were foretelling things to come, as God was revealing in them.